Das, Gopalakam, Vande Rupa Sanatana Rupa, Shri Jiva Gopalakam, and Jiva and Gopal Bhakti Goswami, his own spiritual master. So it's actually brilliant composition, very beautiful Sanskrit poetry. So these Goswamis, the very word Goswami, the 6 Goswamis. Go means the senses, and Swami means one who has the senses under control. One who has the senses under control is no longer living in a fearful condition. The fangs of the dangerous snake of the senses have been broken, and one's engagement, day and night, instead of suffering the heat and cold and wind, day and night they're engaged in remembering Krishna. That's the ultimate success in life. Always remember Krishna and never forget. There's so much more that can be said. I was thinking actually about when I mentioned Ramanujacharya, that he said that above intelligence is desire. Whichever way our desires are facing is the direction we'll inevitably move. If your desire is devotional service, Krishna gives all facilities to realize that. The fact that all of you are here today shows that you made a choice. Your desire was to be here over so many other things we could be doing. We could be at the cinema, we could be eating ice cream at Bubby's, we could be at Sandy Beach, catching the latest swell. Yagyadana tapak karma. Tapa, austerity. A little bit of austerity yields the greatest benefit. A little bit of restraint. Krishna says from the very beginning, curb the restless senses. From the very beginning, curb the restless senses. And conquer this great enemy known as lust, which is taken, as Prabhupada states, strategic points in the body, the mind, intelligence, and the senses. But by controlling the senses, by controlling the mind, we actually make the mind our greatest friend. And once the mind becomes our friend, then it's possible to engage in Krishna consciousness constantly. We're no longer being dragged left and right. We can engage in the sincere chanting of the Mahamantra and remember Krishna always, even in adverse conditions in life. Recently I had 2 of my teeth drilled, which can be a difficult position to be in. I chose to do so without anesthetic because I have a high pain tolerance, but also because I wanted to see if I could remember Krishna while they're drilling my teeth. And there are a lot of things that are easy for us to deal with, or at least for me. If I can see an injury, if I get cut and I see, okay, I'm bleeding on my arm, I put a Band-Aid, I can handle that. That's not very difficult. But somehow, there's something to do with the mouth, where you can't see what's going on in there. And they have that little machine, and you're smelling smoke, and you're wondering, is that an okay smell? You can't really see it, and it's very uncomfortable. And I was thinking, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad. Prahlada means joy, Prah means intense happiness. His own dad is ordering that he be chucked off a mountain, be stomped on by an elephant, Kuvalayapida. No, Kuvalayapida is a different pastime. Big elephant is there to stomp on Prahlad. He's got all of his Rakshasas doing chindi vindi, trying to chop him up. Boiled in a pot of oil, thrown in a pit of snakes, It goes on and on. So many adverse conditions, and yet Prahlad Maharaj is given to us as the Acharya of Smarana, of remembering. Smartavya satatam Vishnu, Vismartavya najatacha. Somehow or other, Katanchana smrtayasun, somehow or other, always remember Krishna, never forget him. So as I was laying there, and the dentist was bringing that drill, and I felt it hit the nerve. And when it first hits the nerve, it's a very painful experience, and I was thinking, my dear Prahlad, if you were able to remember Krishna in much greater times of distress than this, please help me also remember him now. And maybe I can just get a little bit of practice for what comes later on. Prana prayana samaye, the time of death. And somehow I made it through. And with this meditation in mind, I got to worship the devotee Prahlad Maharaj. And I felt like, Hare Krishna. This is my very dear advisor, Madhupati Prabhu, disciple of His Holiness Radheya Maharaj. What is that verse? It comes to mind so easily, but now's my opportunity to ask you. Remind me, Prabhu. You told me a verse once on the way to the airport that one should always follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas. Mahajano yena katasa panta. So Madhupati Prabhu actually taught me that verse, and I've been telling everybody the verse ever since. That one should follow in the footsteps of the great acharyas. So today is the disappearance of Gopal Bharata Goswami, and we have this great opportunity to remember him and to follow in his footsteps, follow in the footsteps of his exalted father, Venkata Bharata, his spiritual master, Prabodhananda Saraswati. Follow them in always remembering Krishna, never forgetting him. And just as Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur said, that these dangerous serpents of the senses, Dur Danta Indriya, Sarpa Patani, Kala Sarpa Patani, Protkata, that danger is totally removed. They become snakes with broken fangs. So I'd like to end there, and if there's any questions or any thoughts, any comments on anything that I've said, I welcome it. Or if everyone's eager for prasadam, I also welcome that. It's also a wonderful devotional practice, honoring Krishna prasadam.
So I like that you gave an example of how to remember Krishna during a time of adversity. There's so many times, even just dealing with another person. So how about times when just coming up to in conflict, how to redirect our minds so that, like, because you talk about lust, does anger also come from lust as well?
Does anger come from lust? Kamesha krodesha rajaguna samudbhava. Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita that from lust, anger develops. From anger, bewilderment of memory. And in this, as it goes, everything is destroyed. Nashati.
It seems like there's different ways of suffering. So, like, when you go after something with your senses and you're just like, I want that, but you can't have it, or you're put in a position where you're suffering. What about when you're put in a position where you become angry or something like that, or there's a pastime like that where
I didn't hear the class where Prabhupada mentioned it, but His Holiness Radheya Maharaj one time said that Prabhupada said that you're just a little bit angry. Nishingadeva is supremely angry. So you have these emotions. It's not just anger. There are so many negative emotions that drive us away from remembering Krishna, whether it's a conflict with another person or whether it's just your own frustrations born of lust, however it may be. But there's always opportunities to remember Krishna. And I thought that one was really sweet. That you might be a little bit angry, but Nrsimhadev is supremely angry. And when you remember that, then your mind is automatically redirected back to Krishna. But it all comes back to these two principles: always remembering Krishna, never forgetting him, and all of the things that supplement that. Which means that it's not overnight, not for everyone. In a few special cases it might be, but by suitable practice, by regular chanting of the Mahamantra, you start to notice these things subside. And it's a practical course one can take. Actually, try it. Chant 2 rounds every day. Start coming to the temple more frequently. See the deities. Read 20 minutes a day. And you start to notice that these things affect you less severely. Or at least if they continue to affect you, it's side by side with devotional service. So it affects you for that time being, and then back to chanting, back to reading. Because as long as you have these material bodies, there will be conflict. As long as you're in this material world, there will be adversity. Is that kind of answering your question? Because sometimes people want a quick fix. They want to throw a Band-Aid on something and say, "Oh, it's done." But it's a process. You have a goal in mind, and to achieve that goal, you take the steps necessary. Your problem is that you don't have money, so you say, "Oh, I see doctors have money. How do I get this degree?" Well, take the course. And you'll start to notice, wow, I'm expanding my knowledge in this arena. In devotional service, I see myself advancing. I'm gaining a taste for chanting. I want to chant a little bit more. I want to read a little bit more. Wow, I'm having less conflicts with people. Oh my God, instead of fighting with them, I'm telling them about Krishna.
I guess, yeah, just like in terms of adversity, where there's a time when you can surrender and you can say like, okay, this is what's happening, but when is the good fight? Or like, on the battlefield or something, like when is it when you stand up for something, you stand up for Krishna, or someone is being insulting, when is it not ego, and when is it actually for Krishna? Like if you're being diverted by your senses, like how do you know the difference between when it's for Krishna and when it's not? It's just your senses.
I suppose I can see how sometimes that line might get a little bit shady, where Arjuna is fighting. He's like, okay, I'm fighting for Krishna, but hey, I also, get the kingdom. But that's why the instructions are there, of Srila Prabhupada, of the spiritual master. If you're being guided by someone, then in a specific case, that question can be put forward. And ultimately, like that verse I mentioned, above the intelligence is desire. You can't cheat yourself. If your desire is sincerely to serve, then you're guided in that direction. You may give it lip service, but if underneath you're saying, actually, I'm here at the temple for free room and board. I just really want to eat something, and after a while you start to get offensive mentality, then you don't last for very long. But if you're there, even sometimes devotees do start coming with material desires. They might begin with ulterior motives. And there are 4 types of fortunate people who come to Krishna consciousness. Some of them have some material desires in mind. Dhruva Maharaj wanted a kingdom greater than that of his great-grandfathers. So he's there chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya with some material goal in mind. One might say, oh, what a rascal. But Prabhupada said, at least, if you're getting your daily bread, at least you're asking God for it. Give us this daily bread. Give me a kingdom greater than that of my great-grandfathers. And by the time he gets it, he sees Krishna, he says, oh my God, that was not what I wanted at all, I just want you. So as long as you're engaged in some devotional sphere, even if it may seem externally like it's for your senses, that gets rectified quickly when your desires are sincere. I don't
Yeah,
think.
also, if you're protecting devotees, that is a very good usage of one's anger.
Oh yeah,
If you're protecting a devotee, if you're protecting
that's
the
wonderful.
scripture, if you're protecting the temple, you can show anger and stuff.
Yeah, if you find yourself with excess anger, there's ways to engage it. Hanuman burned down Lanka.
And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, Bhishma Dev is explaining on the bed of arrows that one way of eradicating anger is forgiveness, through forgiveness.
So for those who couldn't hear, Mataji is saying that in the first canto, Bhishma Dev upon the bed of arrows said that one way of eradicating anger is through forgiveness. Kshama, a very wonderful quality of the devotees, forgiveness. I was thinking actually, it may be an apocryphal story, one of dubious origin, but I heard that Tulsidas was once rescuing a scorpion from the river, and some of his contemporaries, they said, "What are you doing? It keeps stinging you." And he said, if its nature is to sting me at the potential cost of its life, I drop it back in the water. And even at the cost of its life, its nature continues to sting me. Then I can suffer a little bit of discomfort being stung, for it's my nature to be compassionate, to save it. And so that nature of the devotees, that nature of compassion, of forgiveness, the Dikshava Karunika, Suhrada Sarvadeha, Ajata Shatrava Shanta, these are the ornaments of the devotee. Some of the last line is escaping me. But yeah, all these good qualities of the devotee are very wonderfully expressed. Kshama, forgiveness, eradicates anger.
I have a question also. You was talking a little bit about karma, and you mentioned the word. So I'm just going to play devil's advocate a tiny bit.
The word dharma?
Karma. Yes, I'm just saying you spoke a little bit on karma.
Karma.
Karma. Dharma.
Dharma, okay, yeah.
And
one's nature.
so if I was to say to you that the Krishna conscious movement is not a religion, how would you respond?
Well, I'd like to know your definition of religion.
Of karma? Of religion?
Yeah, if you're saying it's not a religion, then depending on your definition, I might agree with you. Sanatana Dharma means one's eternal occupation. Oftentimes, religion has a connotation of something that can change. Prabhupada often said, one day you're a Christian, next day you're a Muslim. It's a shifting of faith. But one's eternal Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, is to serve regardless of what faith you choose. So, be the best Christian you can be. Be the best Hare Krishna you can be. But ultimately, to serve God, to remember God, and never forget Him. That's the duty of everyone. And so that's, if you don't have a better candidate, then we're offering Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Remember him. Remember Krishna. Anything else, or are we time for prasadam? Yeah, thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. What a surprise. Yeah, I saw that. I only just saw that.
Huh? 42 days. She plays? 40 days.